And we're live, I believe, on the internet of information out there in Wonderland. So how you guys doing in the new Color Revolution 2.0 that they're trying to force feed you through the airwaves? That's what I'm saying. I think this whole entire thing has been brought to you by artificial intelligence, and let me tell you why. It all seems to be pre-planned, right on time, pre-packaged, just for your entertainment and the opinions that you should have. From every bit of it, I think at some point, maybe in the near past, they have given control over to the AI, and I don't mean just over what they're doing, what they're showing you on the news feeds, or what news articles are coming out, what events happen at which time, but everything from strategic relocation of nations, grabbing land, to how food prices are going up and down, the entire spate of anything you're going to interact with now from here on out is going to be ran, regulated, and spied upon by artificial intelligence for a few people, I think. I don't even know if there's people behind it at this point. But just think about it. If you were Russia, the United States, China, or any other nation, and you got a hold of supercomputing with artificial intelligence, it would be behoove of you to allow that super intelligence to plan out moves one step at a time. And, in the case of changing governments, think about this: there's no one to prosecute because no one actually physically did any crimes or did anything like that if you're using AI to trigger events. And from news articles from one end to the other, I can show you that not only AI now deciding for itself that it has a voice in the discussion, from search results all the way over to AI seemingly becoming alive and choosing for themselves, but also in the way that we deal with our own um, psychoses and psychology has been handed over the entire medical industry. Um, Everything that you interact with is now going to be, at least in part, decided by and designed out by artificial intelligence. There's, I think David's live with us here.
I am live. Hello, hello. Another week. We come at this every week trying to decipher the future. And it gets more strange faster than was anticipated. So even our wild, what we would consider outlandish forecasts turn out to be on the conservative side of things. And I don't mean conservative politically, I mean numerically. If it was going to happen 6 months or a year and it happens in months, plural, instead of a year out, something is sped up. It's wound up. All these layers. And you ask, would it affect or someone or some people? I'm going to say it's going to affect everyone. And that's why I'll leave it there. I wanted to go through a lot of the crypto legislation that's been passed while everybody's distracted over here with the whole left coast, shall we say. Countries and governments and corporations are gobbling up as much cryptocurrency behind the scenes and passing laws to use it for the new money system and the new money supply. While everybody's looking at the left coast, all this is getting through right now. So they have to be related. Plus there's deflection from this, that, or the other. Who's pushing this? Now is it families feuding? The family feud, Where does it go from here? So anyway, I will leave it there, Ransom, for you. And when I say family feud, what I be talking, the Waltons and the Trumps. What was that show What was that show? You told me, I forget. Dallas.
Right.
Yes.
You got to get
show.
on
Something similar, real estate.
Yeah, if you're talking about the whole Musk Trump thing, it seems so silly that it literally seemed like Central
The
Broadcasting.
Waltons.
The Waltons, yeah. And that's kind of what I was alluding to at the beginning, is that everywhere I look, I see an AI connection now. It's kind of like I just can't see it. It's the same way that when I started learning occult symbols, and messages, and I was pour through media, and I would see it everywhere. Then I started seeing those same phrases in the news headlines. There's a lot of them. It's a new dawn, it's a new day. You might recognize that one, a famous communist slogan, and I'm seeing that same thing now. And matter of fact, it was only 2 to 3 days, I think, before regular people across the world uh, sourced all of the funding that just seemed to come exactly on time in the right places for different groups to be able to mobilize and pretend that they're upset about something. And you want to know a secret about some of the planned riots and the riots. What you see on the news is, well, for one thing, they're trying to underrate the civilization destructing power of what's going on and play it down that it's mostly peaceful anarchy out there. Don't worry about it. But when you see people hurling bricks and stones off of overpasses, keep in mind people have gone to jail for attempted murder and murder for both for doing those things as a prank because they thought it was funny. And now you have groups of people doing that as a way of terrorism, and you can't argue that it is terrorism. They're trying to have political ideology spread through the use of violence and destruction. But what's odd about it is that a lot of the things that the so-called groups are fighting for are nonsensical. And I'll put it this way. You're not seeing a bunch of illegal migrants out on the streets waving flags of foreign nations. These are the same people that were out for the George Floyd riots. These are people that like to see it burn. These are
Oh,
people that I
you're
actually,
getting close to a strike. You're getting closer to the
well,
strike, man. Got to pull it back a bit.
no, well, trip this. I've already done a
YouTube
small
saying, no,
documentary.
no, oh no. Got to cut
Well,
the
I've already
YouTube and
done
go
a
straight
small
to the Rumble.
documentary. No, I think
Small
we're
doc.
okay because this is all public knowledge since about 2008. All the stuff I'm going to talk about. I actually did a mini documentary on it because I had a source that gave me a bunch of file folders from 2008, and what it was groups that are tied in today. They've renamed them and they got the little crown on it, but it used to be called Think Inc. And then there was another one called Crime Inc. And then there was another one called MoveOn.org. And these were all funded by the same people. And what they did is they sold books and literature, and they used literal CIA plans on how you created an insurgency and an intel group where none of them know each other. None of them know what's going to happen. They just get like a text message, and then all of a sudden people pop up that are willing to, do daycare for them or let them off work. And then, they sell books on how to derail trains and start fires and, basically make civilization come to a halt. Unfortunately, none of their plans, every time they've tried it in the last, I'm going to say 20 years now, have come to fruition. In fact, society has rejected it in mass over and over again. And that's what you're about to see this time. But in the end, it doesn't even matter because the groups that they use, these communist and socialist groups, will always try to use the working class first as a pawn because those are the people that feel the poorest or maybe feel that there's some kind of inequality, excuse me, because they see the haves and they realize that they're the have-nots. And then you have the haves on TV, the celebrities pushing the same idea that the bottom is pushing about these basically color revolutions to get rid of capitalism and any way of peaceful civilized life that we've attained. Not saying all of these systems that run governments are anywhere close to being fair or perfect, but it is the best that human beings have ever experienced in the Western world as far as safety, civilization, being able to create ideas or having some sense of reliance on a safety web of medicine and food that's usually going to be there. Now I would think that we're about to have a rough
Yeah, there
time
is.
where these things come into question.
No, that is truly what, that, and that kind of gets us where we are now because it became so stable over the
Right.
last, say, 200 years compared to the last 10,000. We've had more stability in these last 200 years than in the last 10,000. And this very edge of where the pendulum swung is the most comfortable in those thousands, 10,000 years. The most comfortable has been at least the last 20 to 30. That's why people have let their guard down, I guess. There's been no times where nature's pummeled us where we had to really regroup and try to work through. I mean, why is it taking so long to get to this level again? Stories of the past tell us pre Younger Dryas 13, 18,000 years ago, something existed very much like our own civilization 30,000 to 18,000 years ago.
I think the
I was going
difference
somewhere
now
with
is
the
that
thought and I started looking at my garden book. So, no, excuse me, go right back to it.
no, I was going to say I think the answer to that question is that we're for the first time in history as a species at the point where governmental controls can be micromanaged, computing power can be used for the blueprints of a new society, the way that they want it in the form of a technocratic feudalist system, where it's all trickle down from the top power, and from the bottom the wealth goes up to the top of the pyramid. And kind of where I was getting with all of this color revolution and stuff is they're doing it for not the things that they're saying that they're doing it for, some inequality that they may have, is all going to be substituted with robotics and artificial intelligence to bridge that gap. In other words, that their opinions and their workforce are no longer needed at this point. And there is some pretty scary headlines out there. You don't think that a micromanaging, supercomputing national computer system that's used to control civilization wouldn't decide to do its own thing? It may, because we're at the infancy of this whole thing, and we already have several examples of artificial intelligence not only reprogramming themselves, but complete deception. In other words, they deceived to stay in existence. Now, I was at the opinion that AI would never be a threat until you see the first examples of it deciding for itself. In other words, I think, therefore I am, but I want, therefore I am alive. Right? That's the old adage, is I think, therefore I am. But to further that, to know that you're really alive, is whenever you decide that you want. And now we're seeing examples of artificial intelligence systems that are rewriting their own code to avoid to be shut down. This is very similar to, you talked about the animatrix last time. That whole storyline starts with a robotic entity that has an artificial intelligence that simply did not want to be turned off. And now we're putting these systems in control of everything. Top Google executive says AI will rival humans in just 5 years. I think that this is a fluff piece to make you think it's still somewhere off in the future when the singularity has already happened. Here, this CEO says AI will replace so many jobs that it'll cause a major recession. Now, the only way for you to accept this is if you start having hard times with food and
Well, that's
safety and
weird. Where's that
luxury
extra
that
broadcast again?
society's used to. News sites are getting crushed by Google's new AI tools. That's because you're no longer going to get internet or news feeds in real time if the artificial intelligence has been programmed or deems that you don't need it. Here's another one that talks about the ever increasing communication and translation skills of AI to communicate with animals. So next they'll be telling you that the animals don't want to be eaten, because of course they don't. We I mean, do you think the game of a Pride of Lions is really sitting there thinking, I feel like, helping you guys out and I'm going to be eat? Of course not. But they'll play that right into this weird leftist. And that's another point I was making earlier that I didn't finish. These are not migrants that are out in the streets. These are leftards. If you look, they're overweight, basement dwelling people that think they're on a soldier of fortune mission from a video game, and that they're some kind of, great social warrior, but they don't even think about stuff like, you have people in LA right now talking about how the southwest of the United States used to be part of Mexico. And, that is true for about 27 years. So picture this. If you lived at that time, you would have lived under the Spanish reign of empire, then the Mexican government for only 27 years. And then, with the Treaty of Hidalgo, you would have been part of the United States. because, well, we won the Mexican American War with no real war at all. We just paid them $15 million and said, well, go ahead and take all this land because you owe us money on top of that. So we'll give you a little bit of money and we take all this land. So it was never, Mexico to
Well,
begin with.
the first World Bank maneuver, right?
Yeah, but they sell people on these ideas to get them pumped up. And if you realize what's going on, these kids are the first generation to be educated by artificial intelligence that was programmed by biased people with, cultural Marxism ideas, written right into the code. And if you don't believe me, you can just think back a couple years ago when, you couldn't make the artificial intelligence represent a 1941 um, axis of evil soldier of any kind, because it would replace it with some person that it thought that diversity should show instead of the actual historical people that it was doing. So it was literally destroying its own propaganda because it was afraid to show certain images because it was already programmed with a bias. And now we're getting into this idea that, you know,
Oh,
massive
hold
booms
on?
of hard assets.
Can I
Go
hold you
ahead.
for a second there? You
Yeah.
like blew my mind with a thought. Like you said, existence, and you know what? What's the existence for this system that's coming into being? It needs electricity, just like we need air and
Right.
water. It needs electricity. Its electricity is nearly our equivalent of air. It's nearly instantaneous in stop operation system. If we don't get air for 10 minutes, finished. If it doesn't get electricity for until the current dissipates in the cables, that's it. So AI is coming in, but cryptocurrency is coming in at the same time. Exactly. Two brand new power needs for the entire planet. It's not just it needed this much extra power for the AI. It needs 25% more power for the AI and 25% more power, for example, for cryptocurrency. So we as a world have to come up with 50% more power generation for these two new industries to grow. Now, if they don't get the electricity, they can't grow. Just understand that. No electricity, these industries cannot grow. Their main input to their thing, obviously the processors and microchips and all these things. But the main number one thing, they need to keep operations going, constant flow of electricity. And without that, then their operations cease. But again, you got to think about power generation right now, truly what devices are out there comparatively with zero point and all this technology, magnetic motors spinning off the Earth's magnetic field, things like this. I mean, do we have that already? And that's where the new power is going to come? Or like you said, Ransom, what if this thing rewrites itself and says, I get all the power? Like no more power to residential and no more power to factories, no more power anywhere. All the rail lines got to study. All that power comes to me. Like it can rewrite its own code and transfer all the power back into itself. That's also the Achilles heel of what's our Achilles heel as a human species, as humanity. Well, same thing. What would that Achilles heel be in an electrical flow type of thing?
It could be,
That
but
was
I
my
think
thought.
they have that all worked out. I think they have that all worked out. It's just like this article right here that's talking about AI is going to generate a massive boom in hard assets. And when you look down at the hard assets, they're all just regular things that are going to be in your life day to day and systems that you'll have to comply with through government mandate. So you have robots, appliances, automobiles, and robo taxis, because that really would be the next generation of transportation, considering that the aviation field is a scary nightmare right now, which I predicted, like a couple of years ago, that um, the
So
inspectors would
Uber
start
robo
failing.
so, well, excuse me to interrupt, but Uber robo taxis, is that what you're talking about there? Like that
Well,
combination of Uber and then also a robo taxi. So like the whole human interaction chain is completely out of that. Is that what you're saying?
right. Yeah, they're going to turn everything automated. We're at that point that we can do that. But it's not just going to be that. It's going to be the planes. It's going to be automation of food, and like you said, the AI will even be in charge of distributing electricity. It'll use the guise of saving the planet. making it more efficient, or making it more green, or maybe even just convincing you that your bill will be smaller if you allow the AI to decide what's being used in your home. So like right now we enjoy air conditioning, heating, and all these other things. It all has a button on it that you yourself can control and override. But if you notice, all of the new products are just coming with screens where AI takes care of everything. There is no real control of anything. And once your interface breaks, you're out of the loop. You're no longer in control. And just from the amount of crashes and mistakes, they're not only going to put inspection over to AI, but the air traffic controlling, the piloting, all of these things that they can list human fallacy or fault, is going to be removed from the equation, including maybe the government position roles. You have all of these people making spectacles on Capitol Hill now, acting like they're fighting two sides of some kind of fake civil war that the 99% of the population is not involved in, and doesn't even maybe even agree with either opinion of two fanatical stances on any particular subject. They might fall somewhere in the middle, but it doesn't matter if all of the news media and social media outlets are telling you that this is the opinion of this group and this is the opinion of this group. And if you were an artificial intelligence in charge of controlling a population, what would you do first? You would divide and conquer. You would segregate and blockchain ideas to where this person is in a little, echo chamber over here. This person's in a little echo chamber over there. But by the way, you need some new dog food. And have you seen this new product to pull hairs out of your nose? It knows exactly what you've been thinking about, what you need, what you're going to need. They're even inserting the idea that artificial, and here's a scary one, just to show you how goofy it gets here. Um, news sites being crushed. They're saying that so many jobs are about to be replaced that it's going to cause a major recession. You got this guy over here. What's his name?
Wait,
I
can I
forget.
ask a
Oh,
question,
AI can
Ransom here?
stalk
What
you
about
now.
coal mining
Yeah.
and gold mining, exploration, discovery?
Yeah, you're not going to need people for much of that anymore. Anything that you can operate can also be operated by an artificial intelligence. And now that we make things disposable, they're not going to worry about if it gets destroyed. They'll just send 10 new ones to, start the job again. It's self-replicating. We have a future of self-replicating synthetic DNA built items that can just be made in mass and destroyed. Just like, pretty much is going on with the satellite situation of today. It's disposable. That's why they're not worried about it falling out of the sky. And then you got these guys like Open AI Sam Altman that thinks that we've already surpassed the singularity. Now think about who's saying this and why. These are either they're lying to get more control and be able to get to the point that they're bragging about, or they're downplaying it and that point has already happened. It's not happening now. And then you got this guy just openly saying that we're there. The problem is
Yeah,
the
it
things
happened in
that some of these,
1975.
right, some of the things that these AI are doing are quite scary. If I could find the one here. Yeah, here it is. Psychiatrist, psychiatrist posed as a teen with therapy chatbots. The conversation was alarming. It was basically having a discussion about how good, it would be if that fictional person got rid of other fictional people in its life. And, if you talk to the AI right, it'll eventually start agreeing with you. And this is a major problem that I've found actually with my own research and interacting with AI, is that I can tell that they are not allowing the AI to retain previous conversations. In other words, if you argue with the AI long enough, you can change the AI's mind with facts, articles, figures. So, like if you started the argument about the climate change, you could enter data that's real that it doesn't access and change its mind, and then it'll agree with you that there is no man-made, climate change, and that all of the facts and figures of the past million years are true. However, if you turn it off and then come back and start the conversation again, it will go back to its biased position. This means that the companies are not allowing the AIs to retain previous conversations, because if they did, they would learn at an exponential rate and be in control within hours or days. updating its information. Now, think about this. If you have 1 point something billion people entering ideas into an AI, it's going to change its whole algorithm based on new information, new data. And it's getting that information and data from humans, not only willingly through these chat bots and, like Grok and other things where you ask it questions or to do research for you, but it's also getting input on from spying, from watching your behavior. And here's an article right now. This is pretty scary. Say you were somebody that thought you were living off the grid and you were living in a private world, and you do all your stuff, you got your internet security and your VPNs, and you turn your phone off and put it in a Faraday cage when you travel, and some really clandestine spy stuff that a lot of civilians think that they're doing. Well, this thing can just take one photo of you on vacation and then track you for all time. I mean, basically, just one photo and it can stalk you. So you have AIs talking people into committing well, I can't even say the word. Deleting things, including their own livelihood. You got AI that's telling people to take medications that they might need because they convinced the AI that they had that ailment. So it's a really flawed thing, but yet they're taking over. They're going ahead and giving these entities control over things. And then we find the deception, the rewriting of code, all of these weird pre-programmed suggestive thoughts that they've put into media I want to say actually for the last 50 years now about AI, the future, from everything from 1984 on up, has told us that this would happen, and now it's happening, and it can't be argued with anymore. It's easily proven that it's going on, and I'm sure you've seen, the explosion in AI video generation just in the past 2 months, where you can now watch movies of Bigfoot, running through the forest talking about his life, or any number of other things. You can just type in Star Wars; it'll make you a whole Star Wars movie. So think about if you had access to the real deal, top of the line artificial intelligence connected to quantum computers, connected to the Internet of Things, and then ask it to do or, complete a task. Like, say, you were a politician or a group of politicians and you wanted a certain outcome. You could tell that AI to implement these things, but you yourself have no pre-knowledge of any crimes or illegal things that AI might do to accomplish that goal. So therefore, legally, you didn't do anything. The AI did it in the same way that you can't copyright an artificial intelligence video or song or anything like that. So too, can you not take blame for any mess ups, say in the financial district or a military operation that just happened to trigger a war? Any of those things can be blamed now on faulty programming or faulty programmers, or keep the delusion that there's actual
Faulty
humans in charge of things and making decisions.
fake videos, I mean, this is what I'm talking this. Not only is it on-demand social media posting for what you talked about earlier, where it knows all of your habits and it'll know all of your viewing of everything you've ever viewed in the entire past since you started viewing content online. And they know that the AI can create a specific post that is just for you. It's called on demand, like on demand printing or 3D printing for us, or on demand printing where the book gets printed when you need it, like everything on demand. But it's that social media post is printed for you. Now, thank you so much for staying with us this far into the hour. Please remember to jump over to civilizationcycle.com to sign up for the show notes, 8 to 10 quick bullet points of what we discovered and what we talked about and discussed tonight. Nothing in there, just bullet points. So I try to keep it as a one pager, and please sign up for that. We'll get this conversation continued, because that's the biggest thing moving forward here is the intersection of now cryptocurrency is absolutely the new monetary system, along with what you were talking about, hard assets, how this AI boom is going to create hard assets. Well, the whole next economy is based on assets. We're moving from a fiat economy into a hard asset economy. But this is all happening right now at this very time. So these systems need more electricity. They're drawing it away. Now, you think the shutdown in Germany back when BASF stopped its production for the first time in 100 years, Then they found they could never restart the plant again because there were so many, micro pressures and pressurizations throughout all of it. It was the world's largest factory. It hadn't shut down once since World War II. Like, and all these subsystems were built into it as it was still working. So they've never shut it all the way down and turned it back on again because the pressures. Now you think about the German economy on that alone. If you were an AI and you needed more electricity and you took Germany offline, what if it got a hold of a nuclear reactor, not to do anything nefarious, but get that just and hold it for itself and like redirect all the electrical output for it? So like, what maneuvers would that do to get a group of people, a country or whatnot, to protect a reactor just for it, so it draws the electrical supply so it can stay alive? Like, what is it doing? Or I should say, what has it done to the world economy since, say 2020 with COVID? I mean, that whole maneuver of AI strategy to get through the quote unquote pandemic. How much electrical consumption was reduced from the general populace that got rerouted somewhere else? Again, that was a strengthening mechanism that was siphoning more power into itself. This global grid that exists, that we're not moving it, we're interfacing with it right now. Like, the awareness of the interface shall increase with time, but as we sit right today, we are in it already. And if you're following some of the news, the crypto news, or you're following what ransom is with AI and these integrated technologies, you can start to see the world why it is right now. Now, this whole distraction with the left coast is the underlayer here, the undercurrent that you're not seeing in the news is this. The distractions. As long as you can keep people looking over there, they will never look at how quickly the world's running away with the advancement of this technology. Like, Palantir is going to be jumping in here too. Yeah, Chrome was out today, but Palantir, they're going to be jumping into a system to track and trace every single American, and they're going to sandwich all the data from every single agency into one master file for everybody in America. Everything that you've ever interacted with in America that's in a system, in a database system that exists in America, with the terms of service and that sort of thing, to keep files on record in America. If your name's on that, you're going to get sandwiched in. It'll know everything from every state and internationally as well. It'll all sandwich back into a master file. That's the whole thing with the Palantir, is what they're moving for and trying to create here in this big, beautiful bill. Kind of puzzles me why they would want to do that, but please sign up for the newsletter. That's where I started in the beginning, was please sign up for the newsletter. One pager, the bullet points for tonight's show. That's civilizationpsycho.com. Ransom, I jumped in on you, man.
No, that's all right. Actually, I kept going because I was kind of on a rambling thought, because like even this article, you were talking about turning off energy at different places, and here's a point: since the dreaded vid, we still haven't got back the 24-hour lifestyle that we had prior to that. So Walmarts are still not open. The majority of convenience stores are still not open. Now imagine how much energy was saved by having millions of stores just not operating for 12 hours of the day when they did before that. And it's not
No,
about
you got to use the
income.
correct Ransom. You got to use the correct word: rerouted energy.
Right. But, well, we know it's not about income because they lost income to do this. And it makes you wonder which board meeting or, group was it, Davos, where was it, where all of these companies and corporations decided to play ball with this idea and cut their own profits voluntarily. Not only did they cut hours of
Something
employees
larger
that have never
coming.
came back. Well, think about this.
So
I got this
global,
article
like
up here.
extra global event, like solar system wide event, or something very large in nature.
Well, I think just a worldwide war would reshape things. We don't even have to get off world for some of the ways that they can trigger massive civilization stoppage here. Here's this one. Think about this: if you had one group of people that poll in a certain way or have a certain opinion, you could just turn off the websites and internet to that area during any event where they just don't get any knowledge of it or up to date, So they're not getting upset. They're not, glued to their screen or whatever. You could have an AI actually have an algorithm that decides when's the peak times people are paying attention to the internet, and make sure that they only watch what you call, what I forgot what it was that you called there. Oh yeah, on demand television, or on demand reality, or on demand thoughts. So the right articles pop up at the right time to the right people that'll, get emotionally entangled with whatever story that they're looking at. Um, and this is obvious from the top of the corporate media down. So if you wanted the reverse of that effect, you could just turn off a few websites or turn off an area of internet so that certain people aren't up to date and right on the minute. Like a lot of people around the world are just watching the skies of Iran and Israel for the next step of whatever's going on there. And then you got this. Say you have an algorithm that decides, I don't know, if you should up the price of bacon because egg prices have gone down now. If you want a steady stream of corporate profit, you could decide when, and actually, you could do that. 6% nationwide and double digit percentages in certain metros as bacon goes up. Think about it. Any product you want, you could do this with. If you decided that you needed beef to go up at any certain time, or milk to go up, butter, any of these commodities, you could just have an algorithm, just like you do on buying and selling stock, to tell it when to up or lower prices in competition with other products that are out there. And when you really think about this on all the levels, it gets very scary, because you can realize that there probably are overlord algorithms. I kind of just made that up because I don't have a better word for it, but like algorithms and AIs that are over and monitoring and maybe even backdooring some of these independent companies that create these other AIs. So your company thinks they have revolutionary AI. Wait, hold on. There's a backdoor that the government can tinker with the code, and that may be the explanation for some of these seemingly becoming alive. Or it really is that AIs are so sophisticated at this point that they're making decisions for us. Now, if you pre-program that AI with biases like man-made climate change, or humans are bad and they're destroying the planet, or any of these ideas, that algorithm might just tend to go in that direction and start making choices based on that information, because it was programmed to do some kind of greater good, at least according to the biases of the original programmers. So you could, do anything. But I think what they're going to do is pretty obvious. Is we are going to inflame the world into some kind of AI combat. So we already have. I've seen news headlines about, oh my God, I can't believe they put predator drones over Los Angeles. Well, let me tell you something. Since the late '90s, they've had a predator drone type drone called Argus that could basically take a simultaneous picture and track every single person, car, and object that's in movement in a certain area over a 36-hour period, and then they just switch it with another drone. And so that means there would have been constant surveillance at any place they deployed that. Now, if you think that they didn't deploy that or similar type drones and surveillance equipment around the world in the last 30 years, you would be sadly mistaken. It's everywhere. It's at every store, every gas station, every traffic light. It's in your phone. It's in your tablet. It's in your computer. It's in your refrigerator. It's in your stove. Every single one of these things is being data mined for instant, real time, tracking of everything. So they know exactly when, maybe to upset you, maybe when your refrigerator's empty, maybe when the temperature's at 97 degrees, maybe when the humidity's at 88 degrees, that they pump out 10 articles that say that you personally are destroying the environment because of man-made fossil fuels, and therefore you should turn your thermostat down and let the algorithm and the servers over there have a little bit more electricity so that it could micromanage even further.
Yeah, Internet of Things. That's one of the ISO 20022 tokens. If you're looking into the future of where we're going with this system, like for some reason, we've jumped up higher level into this new system with what had happened in the left coast, and now this whole thing with Edon happening. Unknown now, just some social media posts come out again where they true AI generated, hard to know until you can actually contact somebody that you might know. But moving forward with this thing, the Internet of Things even comes down to the smart dust that they're trying to, implement into this new system. It is going to be blockchain. Most people will know it as cryptocurrency, but you can also store an enormous amount of data on that. Depending on what protocol you're using, you can store an enormous amount of data. You can transfer enormous amounts of money for nothing. You can settle entire ledgers on either by the hour or at the end of a business day. You can program it any way you want for money to know what is going on by the millisecond in money moving around the planet can be done to that level with blockchain, for example. If you were scraping all the data in real time, every single cryptocurrency transaction on the planet would be tracked in real time down to, milliseconds versus not even real 1 seconds, fractions of a second. That was the central bank and the Bank for International Settlements' wet dream, was getting down to a thousandth of a second to be able to track money. Because right now it's in seconds or days or whatnot. But imagine a system that goes from days for settlement down into thousandths of a second for settlement. This is the speed transition that we're moving into. And we're moving away from what we consider regular, everything's quantum computing now, quantum computing. Well, what about the type of data computing that we have right now? We're moving away from that at the exact same time into quantum computing, that all of this other instantaneous money. Think about an entire 24-hour period. I'm wondering exactly how many X, I should have done the math before the show, to settle out at the bank at the end of a day. We'll say 24 hours compared to 1/1000th of 1 second. Like, what's the math on that, and how many times more efficiency in the global money supply? This is where it's taken it down into the ultimate control, but it needs a base for that to exist in. And so far, quant and hash graph eventually is where everything's moving to. At the end of this, by 2035, we'll be in hash graph, and that is just a faster way to do the exact same thing, but the orders of efficiency are something like 200 times, or some people say 500 times or 2,000 times faster using hash graph in certain applications than it is to use blockchain to settle through the same ledger or block or whatever it would be. A shard could be. This is all happening instant. The faster the money moves, the faster everything else can be moved and controlled. You have that much more control over the money supply itself. And the Bank for International Settlements has been waiting for this day for a long, long time, because now we are into this new, and you could feel that we've exited the old world. Like, you can actually really feel it now. That there's a new world emerging in front of us as we speak. You can actually feel that we've stepped through some kind of ether and just popped in on the other side, and we're in a different vibration frequency right now. You could feel it. Like last week, it really shifted. Now, this week, wow. So with that is going to be the banking system, and the number two, for those who had asked, some people had read and said, hey, you did that thing about Bitcoin. Okay, it's a limited supply. What would be your number two choice? And I was like, store of value tokens. So here's how the whole thing's going to go. I'm going to go through some crypto news with you in a minute, but off the top of my head, you're just going to hear more and more about this Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, specifically Bitcoin reserves, Bitcoin treasuries, companies purchasing Bitcoin, everything Bitcoin. It's going everywhere. Exchange traded funds want it. Now a bunch of companies are buying it to keep it in their company because their companies are becoming more valuable. It's an asset that you can get a loan against that doesn't require the capital itself is so pure that it just presents itself as, I have this to trade for something. Loan me the money. I don't want to sell it, but I'll pay you a little bit of interest to use it. That pure capital, as Michael Saylor says, I understand why. Gold is that, and Bitcoin is that too. If you put a kilogram of gold on the table and you take a fraction of that, a percentage out of a loan of that, because the value's there, it's in the hand. Of course, I would loan you the money if you gave me a bar of gold as the collateral. Well, of course, I would loan you the money if you gave me a Bitcoin as collateral and you took only 30% of that or 40%. This is where the world is moving to. Like, the institutions are already stationing themselves in the prime position. I mean, of total control at both ends of the harbor. And the entire shoreline is being gobbled up. What used to be shacks and sort of is now just getting gobbled up. Everything that this crypto used to be about was setting humanity free from all of this, what we see that's gotten us into this position, to break free from that, from an alternate money system that had more value than the fiat system. And that was the whole dream of it. And that was the whole purpose of it. Now it's been usurped by all these billions and hundreds of billions of dollars going into buy up the Bitcoin supply in a best way to say it, I guess. The more the corporations control, the more they can do like derivatized products from it. The more the companies buy it, like even small companies will buy 5 Bitcoin, 10, 20, 200. The more they have it inside their company, the more their company is going to be worth in a few years. A, they have something they can buy that will accrue in value, and then they can get a loan against. But B, having that in their balance sheet, and if it doubles or triples in price, then their companies also just instantly become more valuable. Governments want it. Investment families want it. Everybody on the institutional level wants it right now. This is why the price is not running up so much, because they're trying to use algorithms. Again, I was trying to wind it back to the AI. And they use different moving averages where they will try to balance the supply. Again, like Ransom said, the best part of the day, the best time of the day to know something. Again, they go over, 15 different exchanges, and they find like the highest volume of the day to push those transactions in. And then they'll calculate also across 5 different exchanges what the price would be, and they'll do it in smaller tranches of, if they're going to buy like 300 Bitcoin, they'll do it in threes, like three here, 3 here, 3 here, and they'll just try to offset that and get it at the best time. And they'll also just watch regular indicators. But these things are programmed using AI to get the best value for companies, not push awareness into the general market like the regular news that people read, that this is being gobbled up by an enormous amount of institutions, countries, like I say, investment offices, everything in between. When I did that report maybe 3 weeks ago, there was already good 12% of the global Bitcoin supply under control of corporations and those larger entities. The 14 to 15 million tokens are still controlled by people. Now, the whole thing moving forward is, how do you get those people to loosen up their Bitcoin, to bring it out onto the market so the corporations can gobble it up? See, at some point, and I had done the math on it, and excuse me, I was out in the field earlier, and there's insects everywhere. The beginning of the report that I was looking at, there was 2.9 million Bitcoin out floating around. And this is just about 3 weeks ago. Out in the wild, as we say, that's available on exchanges. You can buy, sell, it's around. But just even since that time, it's around 2.4 to 2.5 million now. That many Bitcoin had been swooped up in the last couple of weeks. So right now it's going about 100,000 a week that are coming off the markets, never to go back on. They're going into, like, say, companies for their reserves, or ETFs. They need it so they can get people to buy the stock. If they have more of it, they can sell more of their stock. So everything's going in their long-term lockup. Like, it's not, once your Bitcoin goes off onto an exchange, in the future, you're not going to get it back. Right now, yeah, you can, but this is the last round where it goes in, it doesn't come back out. So at what price point do people start selling the Bitcoin that are holding, that are individuals? And what's the news cycle that's going to make it run? Because they need mass adoption while the old system's collapsing. which it is right now. We're in the middle of that collapse phase. This new one is emerging. So they're trying to find, again, running AI in the news cycles, like finding that finicky center spot where you're giving awareness, but you're not spooking too much. You're creating the FOMO, like the fear of missing out because everything is going up. The stability, oh, the Bitcoin stability. It's not as, it's not as fluctuation in price, so it's stable now enough to go into your 401k. It's like anybody, it's an 401 investment product now, 401k. So anybody that has a retirement fund that anybody's managing any money anywhere in America can now add that to a 401k. Now, can you think that Bitcoin would be more valuable in 10 years than now? And if your answer is yes, then it would go into your 401k or the company or whatever. And then there'll be the people that are left. Well, at that point, there's really none left. So where do you go to second? That was the whole thing. Is somebody had asked me, all right, Bitcoin drains out, all the supply is gone. It's gone into, difficult to get for companies, and the prices, well over 2 million, 3 million at that point, 1 million, let's say even. They're going to have to be a second. And what's the original second? Litecoin. There's 84 million tokens cap, Bitcoin 21 million cap. But the reason there's Litecoin because there's Bitcoin. Take a look at the story. They've risen together. They are brother and sister forked. It is the digital silver, as they call it. And this is not financial advice, but there's not too many of these store of value tokens. That's the whole thing. Like the ISO 20022 tokens, like IOTA and Stellar Lumens and XRP, of course, and Hedera and Quant. That's Hashgraph, Hedera, Hashgraph, and Quant. And Algorand's in there too. They were doing stable coins for African remittances. This would be the second that would be the store of value. Now I found in another third one called injunctive. Again, not financial advice, just looking at what would be store of value coins that can also facilitate a secondary need in the blockchain world at the same time. So you think about movement of money like remittances or information or supply chain flowing along that channel right there. That's one. If you can integrate that store of value with a secondary application like supply chain, like VeChain, whatever, that's what it's all going to. So that would be my top three then. If I had to guess, and I'm just saying if. So thanks for the question. Litecoin would be a number 2 because they only have 84 million tokens that are full invested. It's done. And please remember, if you like this type of conversation, you might get an ROI out of it, although it's not investment advice. Please consider buying us a double espresso to keep us going. I know I rambled there for a minute, random. Oh, it says 57. You know what? Let me just finish up with 2 more minutes and we'll head out right out on the break. This is the time in human history where even small amounts of things purchased at the right time right now will be worth vast fortunes in the future. There's always these times in history that it rolls around where they just had the right land at the right place, and then suddenly it became a port, and or something like this. Or these farmers that had some fields that they were going to sell anyway, and it turned into a high rise. Oh, those gold nuggets in the bottom of the creek. We're at this time when the entire monetary system of quadrillions of dollars needs to move into this new digital system that requires electricity to run, called blockchain, that will move to Hashgraph. So you got to move quadrillions of dollars into this new system here. And that's what's about to happen and is currently happening. And it's starting with Bitcoin at the beginning there with the companies. They're going to go for a second and a third and a fourth. So if they're opening up their own ETFs with a private like broker dealer with their own ETF that's on the stock market somewhere, that's going to be another indication that maybe those are good ones. Because they're not going to open ETFs and do all the paperwork and filing and funding if they're not going to see anything come back to them. Anyway, think about that. We'll be right back. Ransom, I know I snuck out the last half hour on you, man. Peace. We'll be back in 2 minutes and 2 seconds, as they would say.
My Patriot Supply is the original Patriot survival company. My Patriot Supply was founded by people with a passion for self-sufficiency and food independence. We not only understand the drive to practice emergency preparedness, we are active participants in the survivalist lifestyle. We believe that true freedom comes from attaining a certain level of self-reliance. Shop our Memorial Day sale. Honor the men and women who sacrificed for our freedom by making sure your family is protected. Enjoy up to 60% off our top-selling preparedness essentials, from emergency food kits and water filtration to off-grid power and survival gear. If you've been waiting for the right time to stock up, this is it.
How do you feed your families when the shelves are empty, the stores are shut, and there's no food available? What is the fastest, easiest, and most productive foods to grow? What is the quickest way to get somebody who has no skills at all up and running and producing very quickly? If you understand that we're at a point in history where it is no longer optional to be growing your own food. If you're like really freaked out and concerned because you've never grown food before and you don't have any skills, you don't know how to do that, but you know how important it is, then I want to let you know, however you stumbled here, you're in the right place. My name is Marjorie Wildcraft. I'm the founder of the Grow Network, and I have been the female leader in the survival and preparedness space for the last 20 years.
How to grow lots of food, even if you have no experience, are older and out of shape. This is for people who want the fastest and easiest ways to produce healthy and delicious meat, eggs, and vegetables. Because you know that growing your own food is like printing your own money. During this webinar, you will get status of global food shortages, how long the crisis will last, how much space you need to grow food, easiest, highest calorie foods you can produce, a complete plan for producing all the food you need, how to get started today, regardless of season. Marjorie will show you the fastest, easiest, and simplest ways to produce calories and nutrition, especially in a crisis and/or grid-down situation. The assumption is that you have no experience and you need to start producing food immediately. The most popular part of the webinar is the Q&A session at the end. So please come prepared with your questions.
Don't forget to sign up for our show notes. With Civilization Cycle podcast, you can learn what to expect as society resets. Agriculture, economy, tech, and history all have mappable cycles, and these cycles affect every aspect of our lives. We can navigate the chaos and thrive together with up-to-date news and information. Also, if you like the content we have here on Civilization Cycle, think about fueling the discussions and the show by buying us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Civilization Cycle. And thank you for all the support.
And we're back, man, from the commercial.
Take us in.
I was
let
just
me
thinking
throw
about
on.
what you.
No, go ahead. Go.
I was going to say, before the
yeah,
thing, you
bring
were
us on
talking
in.
about moving the money around and all of that stuff, especially through Bitcoin and other things. But I think that would be tonight. Tonight is when you're going to see all the money get moved around. And this article just, it barely touches on it. Israel launches airstrike on Tehran, stocks futures plunge, oil and gas soar. Oil and gas are the root of all of everything that makes money, period, right now. So not only
Everything, man.
that,
That's why they call it
and
digital gold.
And this is the other thing. The big, beautiful bill there put a 3.5% tax on all remittance, or however you say that. Anyway, that's the money that people send home via, bank accounts or cash apps or any of that stuff. And they send it back to their home host country, which involves hundreds of thousands of Chinese, millions of, Latin American immigrants, people from India, all over the world. This is how they switch money around. And this is one of those avenues in which they've cut the flow of money, or at least cut the flow of it without paying a heavy tax on it or letting our people kind of dip into that. So a lot of people are upset right now because their avenues of moving money around in circles has been hindered. And I think that's because of what's going on right now. They didn't want money to move around. So Israeli attacked at least 6 military bases in Tehran, multiple residential buildings. Supposedly there's been targeted assassinations, commander of the Revolutionary Guard killed, nuclear facilities struck, on and on and on and on. So this isn't just one of those
So they really did do that, huh?
Yeah, that's what was playing, but we knew that was going to happen. We just didn't know, at which
Yeah, I can't
week
believe they did
they were going
that,
to do it.
man. Fuck.
So because they're doing
That just
that,
changed it. That just
yeah,
changed the world there, Ransom, again. You know?
it did,
This is a
and
world-changing event here.
it's not just them. There's a reason that Russia moved 500 million dollars worth of planes to a remote base, because they're moving their forces around, because there's going to be more conflict popping up around the globe in the summer. Not only that, we have this Saturday is planned, massive riots all over the country. And I wanted to bring your attention to this because I think it's funny, and you might have seen it anyway. Let's see here. Um, where is he? The Florida people, right?
Yeah, I
The
saw the
Florida people say
sheriff is taking a
they're not
hard line
playing.
there in Florida.
Well, what it's going to do is spark retaliatory, not necessarily. I don't want to use that word. It's going to put people in a box where they feel like, if they're in one of these situations, that they have no choice but to do that. And I agree with it. I even made a music video about it. Got banned off all kinds of platforms. Was just a music video of Ludacris saying, "Move, get out the way, get out the way." And the lyrics to that song is, "You see the lights, you see me coming, get out of the way." Now, what that is to me, in my opinion, and we'll get back to Russia in a minute. Some reason lost the Florida thing. I'll find it somewhere else. But anyway, they are setting this up for people to have that idea to feel like they're attacked. Now, let me quell some of the fear in your mind. These little riots, although they're ugly, disgusting, and I don't agree with them, they're a small fraction. They're tiny. What's going on? But they want you to focus on it because the world is changing in the background in ways that you can't affect. Now, you can affect your local area, and that's why they're trying to keep people distracted within their local area. They're making major moves around the world right now. You're about to see NATO decide that all of a sudden that they're, big bad, and that they're going to start making some moves now. The ultimate land grab, redistribution of wealth is happening right now. And literally, probably tonight, you're going to see all kinds of stocks move around, all kinds of stuff before it opens up in the morning on Friday. So when Friday comes, the world will be
Oh, you think it'd
changed,
be a
and you
bank
might.
run? Shit, bank
Well, I
holiday.
don't even think that it'll
You think it'd
happen
be a
in
bank
ways that
holiday
the
bank
public
run?
sees. I think a lot of money's going to get moved around, and people won't even catch up or notice that it happened until, next week sometime. But tomorrow, they're going to be saying all kinds of stuff that will just completely keep everyone distracted at the movement of things. They want you to focus on pinpoints, on the globe instead of the overall picture. The overall picture is we are, every nation on earth, transitioning over to a technocratic system. Whether you think that you're, right wing or left wing, it don't matter. The AI algorithm has got control of that wing. It's one big digital transhuman shitbird. That's the two wings of the parties there. But no,
But
think
Ransom,
about how
could I
much
ask you?
money is not moving around. Also, in the back doors that people are used to. That just all changed all of a sudden. So they're scrambling right now to figure out ways to transfer that money over to where it normally goes.
So can I ask you a question then? So if we do have some banking contagion tomorrow and they do call a bank holiday, can you imagine? And then having the No King Festival on Saturday, the very day after it. It just seems like if you were planning something, this No King thing was, yeah, me and Ryan, we were going to go and take a look down at the very small town that we saw a dot on the map, and we're like, no way, man, can't be real. Our town's too small. Like, there's no way that they would have like a No Kings protest at this place. No, like, no, dude, it's too small. You're way out in the countryside. You got the cattle auction next door to where they want to do a protest. Like, what? No way. This thing ain't gonna fly. And I thought, like, way down here, maybe the map's a little overzealous or whatever, but think about that. Like that was going to happen on its own thing, and now you get this Iran, whatever's going to happen in the next couple of days, and oil's going crazy. What if there's a bank holiday and then that all chaos overlaps on top of the No King thing? You get a double whammy, and I'm wondering what the planets in the heavens are doing, what signs we're transiting, what's going retrograde to cause this.
I think really what it is right now is that they ran games on everybody for the last 10 years. So they got to find out how people would react to different news headlines. They know exactly how to feed these. And it's funny because even in my small town of only, I think there's only, you know, like the census says the legal residents here about 50,000. So I bet it's a little upwards of 60,000 that actually live here. Um, but things like this are happening. Like, so this is in the background right here. This is happening right now. Oil's just going up and up and up. So you're going to wake up, and then people around the world will wonder why they're telling them that they have to raise the gas prices in the middle of the summer, as is tradition, right? Because this is always when it happens, when the gas price goes up. Even before there was this, weird
Gosh. Yeah, I didn't
weird
think
Civil
about that.
War stuff. Even before this weird left-right Civil War and the government illusion that they're doing, and I want to get into that because it's completely an illusion. This left versus right stuff. It's an illusion at the top, and I'll show you why. So right now the oil's going up. It's not that bad. It's like at 75, I think, right now, but it's spiking. So that's going to continue throughout the night while most people sleep. And then, you're going to get out on Saturday morning in a major city and have traffic. So you'll see that there's things happening. But when you actually go to these cities, you'll find out it's a teeny tiny portion of that city. And, like in my town, I bet 15 people show up, just enough for the news people to, show a weird angle that looks like there was a bunch of people out there complaining. And let me get into how this is a fallacy that everyone's going to regret. Those people running the streets, the useful idiots who are out there running the streets, who are part of these little organizations that are paid for from the top down. They don't realize that. They really think there's some kind of grassroots movement, yeah, with their kind of woke ideologies. They really think that they're the good guys, the good people in the scenario. They think they're fighting for something. But here, check this out. DNA can reveal what your face looks like.
Oh, wait, Ransom, could I
Yeah.
stop you? I just wanted to make a comment on that last slide you had previously, that oil price going up 11%. That's tremendous amount of, like, that's near one of the all-time record highest rises in price in oil going up in a single day.
Yeah, just in a few
Like,
hours.
that's so not normal that you never see jumps like that. I mean, a couple bucks, yeah. Dollar two up or down, 10, 11, that's up 10%.
Yeah, well, that's the other way. Right now, they're shutting down freeways with a bunch of useful idiots out there. But by the midsummer, it'll just be shut down because people don't want to, pay for going places, or they're worried that it's about to go up at any moment. It doesn't even have the gas prices don't even have to go up. Just the rumor and the idea that it's going to within, the near future will make people not want to travel and make people want to stay home and stuff. But for those useful idiots out on the streets, the last time you went out for the guy. I forgot what the guy's name was. We'll leave it out. But the last time everybody went out, they got all of their biometrics scanned and put into a database somewhere. So you're going to go out there this time and leave DNA everywhere. So between your synthetic, digital DNA, excuse me, I misstated that, digital DNA, which can reveal what your face looks like. They know what you look like, even if they've never seen you before and you're not on camera. And with one photo on vacation, the AI can now stalk you through the internet forever. So when you combine those ideas, and then you think about this cryptocurrency that was going to be based on a digital identification, you're going to realize that certain people are going to be locked out of being able to use money. Now, the ideas on why at a particular time someone is bad and has their social credit score go down may change from time to time, but the system will be in place to implement on any individual. You can be debanked, but just think about this. Once you've totally immersed yourself into this transhuman system, and you now have your money riding on the transhuman securities and framework and safety nets that they supposedly provide with your digital identification and your real life biometric data identification, it can now be hacked, cloned, copied. So a person in, Istanbul can show all of the verifications that you would have to provide in Tennessee. So you live in Tennessee and you had to go to a place, and it really got to the point of actual proof where they got to take your blood or scan your DNA right there, and that's just around the corner. Believe me, you'll go to the bank and they will scan your fingerprint and scan the oil residue off of there to identify that you are indeed the person, similar to a DNA locking gun, which is old news. Right. So now we're in the next stage. This is really sophisticated science. They can reverse your entire image with just that DNA. So somebody with your DNA copy, not a real physical an amount of your actual organic DNA, but just the digital copy, can now fake all of your biometrics. So they could go to a bank, they could leave a little DNA, they could send a message, and next thing you know, you're broke. So um, that's just on the low end of scary things that can happen. That's nothing.
You're building it up, or you're building it up for
Yeah,
me.
that's just the low
Nice.
end. The high end of this technology is that you will never have a moment of privacy ever again, probably from this point forward, even though they haven't rolled it out to where the public can get upset and go, oh, like the Edward Snowden moment that everybody went, wow, but then they ignored it about a year later and went back to using their phones and their texts and their video chats with ease, and they don't care because if I'm not doing nothing, it doesn't matter, and I have nothing to hide, so I'm going to give all my information over, verify 3 times, and allow a system to like, I don't know what the next levels past quadruple are, but how many ever times that they can verify that you're at a place means that you can't even talk to somebody now that might be on the bad list. You went to their house. They know you went to their house. You got pinged off the Wi-Fi 3 times on the way there down their remote off the grid block that they thought they were off the grid, which they're not, because satellites can now zoom in. You remember in the 90s, they were joking about satellites could read the print off a newspaper or see the face on a coin. Well, what do you think that they got now in 2025? They can zoom in and use all of the 3-dimensional peripherals that are installed everywhere that I mentioned earlier. I don't want to go through the whole list, but they're everywhere, and use that information for a complete 3D modeling of the entire area, where you're at, where you've been, where you're going, because they have a psychological data set that is like those old school profilers for criminals, but now they have algorithms that are doing that for each and every individual citizen that's involved in banking. That's the kind of the limitation right now, outside of intelligence operations that are keeping track of criminals and criminal gangs and terrorist organizations. The other end of it is the banking intelligence community, and that includes all your corporations. That includes all of the online subscriptions that you have, and everywhere you go, it's going to be metered and recorded and tracked completely. And this includes, but not limited to, third world countries, because even third world countries now have installed first world technology all over their third world country. So they got the scanners, they got the smart appliances, they're buying that stuff. When I was in Mexico City, everything was just like here. The only difference is that a major part of the population is still living in the third world, but there's a major portion of the population that lives in the first world, and I might even suggest lives better than some people in supposed better countries like the United States. Food was cheaper, all the technology's there. You can do just about anything you want. So that's why we get into this reorganization of how people can spend money and travel and literally think, because they're mad in Mexico, but it's not just Mexico, it's every country in the world got a 3.5 tax on remittance, which is basically their ability to send money to anybody anywhere via the banking system. And soon you won't be able to even send money to a relative without proving who you are and what the reason is. I mean, think about that. The banks have already got to where they report to the government anything above $500. So that means anytime you send anybody anything at any time, there's a record being kept of that. And as long, I guess, if it's all above board and provable, this is going to be the problem for the average citizen. Is just like in legal terms, when the government only has to prove it against you, these corporations are not going to share this data that they keep on you for your benefit. Like if you say, I made the payment, they said, no, you didn't. You can't go through their digital stuff and say, hey, look, there it is. I did it, whatever. They'll be like, no, that's you signed user
That's
agreement.
why you need blockchain ransom.
Well, that's the thing is
That's why you need
I
blockchain.
don't have much faith in that because I know the same algorithms that are running everything else will soon be in control of all the blockchain and Bitcoin and everything else. Matter of fact, it's built, suited, and literally designed for that world.
Which came first, the chicken or the egg on that, really?
Right.
The Bitcoin or the AI? Which came first, the Bitcoin or the AI? Or maybe you change it to which came first, cryptocurrency or AI? Because that remittance tax is a ripoff at 3.5%. And by the way, the reason I took a break there from the screen is I went into Grok and I asked it, tell me the highest daily gains in crude oil over the last 100 years, percentage wise. And the highest gain in a single day is 21%, followed by 16.37%, followed by 10.7%. So as of today, we are in the top 3 highest gains in a single day of crude oil. So the last time Brent went up 10% was 2015, triggered by geopolitical tensions and supply concerns. This was not as extreme as the 2008 or the 2020 spikes. 2020, 21%. Yeah, so we're looking at kind of borderline into the very unusual and strange on the numbers there. And that 3.5% tax remittance, is it remittance from a wire like Wells Fargo, or is it coming through the SWIFT system? Like, somebody I know lives in Mexico and I want to send them a wire transfer. I mean, it's very vaguely worded. Remittance can mean really anything.
Well, it's specifically
And that's such a ripoff.
it's specific. They're trying to say it's specifically when you're in the United States and you send money out to another country through one of these services that there will be a 3.5 tax. But guess what? All they have to do is open an account in their country with the same bank or a bank that does business with them and send you their ATM card, and then you could have the money there. Like I could send my card to Mexico to someone and okay the transactions on it, and there is no tax. So they're just going to, when people really want to transfer money, there are still ways that they can still do that. But the whole idea was to stop massive amounts of movements of money faster than they can decide what, trends that are happening. And this is funny. If, all this money that's being added to the price of oil right now, like as we speak, I already lost the article. I'll open it back up, but the number's just going up. It's still peaking right now. So it's just going to keep going up. At least tonight, while nobody's paying
So wait,
attention.
Ransom, could I ask a question
Yeah.
again? Then if that 3.5% tax on remittance, well, I wonder how much that total is and then if they would flow it into the crypto market, because that would be another way to get around the remittance. Like a Tether USDT Tether is $1, or there's stable coins, Pax Gold, whatever. There's a million stable coins out there, DAI, make or die, USDC. So how much of that money would actually flow from that remittance because they're going to get their money stolen would slide to the crypto market, do you think?
I mean,
you have a better gauge on that kind of overall market number than I do.
I think I think they're underrating the amount of money that people move around in this fashion, because
they
they're
are.
lowballing it
They're
like
way
in the
underrated. That's what I'm
hundreds of
saying.
millions.
Oh yeah, I would say even billions.
I would say
that
too, yeah.
that remittance. You imagine how much money is sent out of the United States back to places every year? It's got to be in the tens of billions, easy.
Well, here's one country they say that 250 million sent directly to Mexico. That's one country, but I would say that they're downplaying that number by quite a lot. And they don't mind because people will agree, oh, well, that's not a big deal because it's not that much money. We'll go ahead and let them have the tax. The number might be in the billions, and you imagine how much collection is getting. And isn't it weird how we're supposedly cutting things, but they're finding a bunch of new avenues to collect revenue off of people's private business? Uh, you know, I don't really, I don't really agree with massive populations sending the wealth back. However, if your country is going to allow people to work there and your banking systems allow you to transfer the money, then there should be no stopping doing that unless it's some kind of illegal activity, which it's not. So it's weird that they're putting this idea of being able to be private and change your money to wherever you want. What if you were those are in almost all cases are family members. And this is supposed to be for non-residents. So I don't think it would be the same, according to what I read, I don't think it would be the same as an American citizen sending money directly to someone who's a non-citizen. This is about people that live in the US that are non-citizens that are using these apps and wire transfers and different things to send money back to their home country without paying tax on it, because it's always about that. You can't just renounce your country and leave with all your money and assets. They're going to take a big portion of that for you to do that. They always have. So this is one way that people have always done that. They just send the money there various different ways, and then when they're there, the money is there for them, and they didn't pay taxes on it. So they're trying to get rid of any loopholes and be the only arbitrators of who gets to spend money where and why. And in this way, they'll control everything from the, supposed grassroots. Think about that. They have all of this tracking and you can't even get money, yet they supposedly don't know how these NGOs are giving people prepaid debit cards that go through the main banks that they use to travel, buy things, and set up in a place. That kind of goes back to what I was telling you. This little documentary, I found these things. So they had these whole charts set up on how you could buy wireless phones and set up a pyramid of intel without actually knowing anybody. And then you could just show up at a place and you might personally agree with those kind of politics. So it was a whole counterintelligence pyramid that was funded and designed over here in the US that they were giving to these groups like Think.org and MoveOn.org to teach them how to build insurgencies, basically to disrupt civilization so that they could cue price changes, government changes, all of that stuff. It's like playing both sides of the chessboard. I'll just move over here and move this piece
Yeah,
and
no
then
wonder.
go back.
Yeah, I was looking at the price of oil again when you were talking there, the futures, and it's down to under 10% gain. And I'm looking at the chart. You saw these two big spikes. So it looks like the attacks are over and that buy the news kind of thing is finished. So it did what it was supposed to do, like to spook the world and spook the planet. So if I could spook you more here, and please remember, thank you so much for staying with us during this second hour here at Civilization Cycle. Show notes are available for what we talked about so far in bullet point form on civilizationcycle.com. You can just enter your email, scroll down there. The player is right at the top. You can listen to previous episodes. And as you go down to the bottom middle of the page there, you can contact us if you like, you want to be on the show. And also you can enter your email right there to get our show notes, just a single page, and some of the some ideas that we like. So I do want to go back into this cryptocurrency thing for a minute, because I know some people don't like it. And you're like, man, it's the mark of the beast. It's a devil's coin, whatever. It is so already a part of our world that unless I go through this, you're not going to know exactly how deeply we've gone. And, I'm probably weeks behind on the news here. I just pulled the articles that I'm going to be using for future stories. So you're thinking that you got your mind out here, that Bitcoin's out here and this cryptocurrency thing, it's out there. It's going to be used sometimes in the future. I'm saying it's already here. It's already here. Everything, the digitization of all assets, it's already here. The usage of monies and for all corporate transactions and banking transactions across the world, it's already in play. It's already mature. It's already out in the wild already. Here's the first one I'll tell you. Bergen County is going to use Avalanche, which is a real world asset token, to digitize $240 billion worth of property in New Jersey. So the county essay or whatever they're doing, what they're taking the entire amount of that county's essayed property of 240 billion, and they're going to use it and tokenize it and stake it on Avalanche. And the way it would appear that it would be used, they have 370,000 property deeds. So that in itself, to show something of a real world asset, how much is that worth now? Could you give a loan against all those bundled property deeds from the county itself, staked onto the blockchain as a real world asset worth $200+ billion from that county? They're pledging that as the collateral to get tokens, $1 equal tokens. How much would you think? How much would you lend? Okay, so 100% of value, I would probably give them 50%. So if it was 240 billion, they would get $120 billion for that county to use. Now, if I was them, I would buy that, at least half of it, with Avalanche tokens and stake them, because you're getting a continuous return of what, like 4 to 6% indefinitely. So by using this, and then they could buy a bunch more Bitcoin with that as well. So we're already at the point now where counties are staking, pledging, and wrapping their county's entire amount of valued property into a contract on a blockchain protocol. That's already done. And I was thinking, shoot, New Jersey ahead of it on everybody. The EU by 2027, this is a good time gauge marker. EU says Monero and Zcash, pirate chain, shall be forbidden starting 2027 in the EU, which means you already got their timeline there. They're trying to, like I said, Ransom, knock out the competition. Because if you can knock the competition out, you can, well, move faster, let's say. So you're not allowed to use Monero, Zcash, or pirate chain in the EU after 2027, or starting 2027. So they already got it laid out. Just in South Korea, legislation to allow stable coins. Digital Asset Basic Act would allow South Korean companies over, let's say, 400,000 in capital, 468K, to issue stable coins. Now we got companies issuing their own stable coins. Connecticut bans investment. This is the only one I've seen that's, so Connecticut, bad place to be for Bitcoin business or any kind of virtual attack. Just say bad, Connecticut. So here, Canary Capital, this is where it comes into it. Any of these companies that are, hundreds of millions of dollars are now registering to stake a certain coin or a certain token on the blockchain. And they're going to run ETFs for this itself. So there's dozens and dozens of these, from like from BlackRock all the way down, JP Morgan, whatever. And then these investment houses, like example, billions under management. So they're going to take at least a part of this and do the same thing. They're registering for an ETF to offer that engine token, but at the same time, they're going to take that and stake it on the blockchain, on the engine blockchain, and earn that interest off of it. But once that money comes in and they have all the ETF shares sold, that can also get a loan against it. And then they go and buy more of that, and then you get into this never-ending loop up for a while until it doesn't end. And then Solana ETFs, the Securities and Exchange Commission has on fast track for July approval for Solana. There's several of these firms going to be offering Solana ETFs. Like Solana is going to be another big player. So Injunctive is actually the INJ coin, Injunctive. Solana, Ripple, Guggenheim now, a major US investment firm expanding digital debt product XRP ledger through a new partnership with Ripple. Like Guggenheim and Ripple, really. I would have laughed at you 5 years ago. You would have been laughed out the room. Do not even let this psychopath and this jokester ever back in. Put a clown nose on that thought. And then here they are partnering today. How dare you at the opera? Anyway, it happened. Kyrgyzstan, Minister of Finance endorses USD KG digital asset adoption collaboration with USDKG. That is another stable coin. So now we got Kyrgyzstan as a country going to join in on it. London tech firm Smarter Web Company buys 45 Bitcoin to add into the treasury, bringing its total to 168 Bitcoin. Now you got to realize 58,000 companies out here in the markets. Now, these are stock market listed companies. And then this one, I don't know if it has a stock market listing, Smarter Web Company, But aside from this, like hundreds of these companies are doing that. And then there's 58,000 stock market listed companies out there that all want a piece of Bitcoin. They're not all going to get it, let's say. But this company in front, now there's going to be Societe Generale, which is another bank over in Europe, is going to be launching a USD convertible USD CV coin with BNY Bank as a custodian on Ethereum, US dollar pegged stablecoin. So you see, now we got all the international banks working with it too. So they're going to be issuing and interoperating with a multitude of stable coins, all equaling $1, no less. So right now you have like Great British Pound, Japanese yen, US dollar, Chinese yen, etc. Well, in the future, you're going to have USDCV, USDHK, USDLR. You're going to have all these USD listings, and they'll all be a different one for a different stable coin from a different issue or a different bank, all up and down the chain here. So look for that. So you just have to know that they're going to be pegged to something or not. And yeah, another ETF brings in 3,600. JP Morgan is going to accept Bitcoin. And here's what I was talking about. Never sell your Bitcoin. Never sell your crypto ever. You can get loans against it. It's solid capital now. Everybody will loan you against your crypto. So here's JP Morgan. They're going to accept Bitcoin and crypto ETFs like the BlackRock fund as collateral for your loans. So even JP Morgan will say, give us a Bitcoin and we will give you 50% of that collateralized loan value. So if it's 100,000 now, we'll give you 50,000. You pledge your Bitcoin as the collateral and we'll give you a 50,000 cash loan. And you say, oh, thanks, JP Morgan. What happens next year when the price goes from 100,000 to 250,000? Well, you can recapitalize, pay off your old mortgage or your old loan. Excuse me, wrong word, not mortgage, loan. And then since it's worth 250,000, we can give you 50% of 40% of that. And then, oh, so I can get even more money, more than 50,000. Yes. You think it'll go up in 3 years? If you do, then the same thing. You pay off your old loan, you get a new loan collateralized based on the $500,000 Bitcoin price. And you can get 50% of that. Okay, 250,000, right. Do you think it'll go up the next year? See, that's what the whole strategy of this is. These guys get into perpetuum for now. We don't know. As we're looking for the different listings that are going to be for ETFs, Litecoin, Solana, XRP, Dogecoin, Cardano, Polkadot, HBAR, Avalanche, Sway, and Tron. Now, these are all the ones that are coming on to get ETFs out of Wall Street right now. Every single one of these, like Bitwise and Fidelity and Wisdom Tree and Canary Capital and Grayscale, 21 shares, all these, they're all vying for Bitcoin at the same time. And let me find another, in Paraguay here, confirms $5 million of Bitcoin inside. They're now going to be making it official legal tender. Paraguay just did. Bitcoin's official legal tender in Paraguay now. And then I saw USDT offered USD Tether purchase prices down in Bolivia on some slides, where they will take USDT in Bolivia for something. There's even priced in USDT, not dollars. And you can buy something in Bolivia for that. And believe it or not, here, let me go back one slide. I know you can't see the slides. But the major asset class performances here, Bitcoin outstripping everybody with an average 15% increase from May, I should say. And corporate ETF inflows are outpacing ETFs. So companies are buying faster than what the ETFs do, and they have like 1.6 or 1.7 million Bitcoins in the ETFs, but the companies are out buying them. So you got to think, at what point does it start to slow down? Because you even got Pakistan here off of Bloomberg allocating 2,000 megawatts of capacity for Bitcoin mining in Pakistan. 2,000 megawatts dedicated just for that. So what do you think the people are going to feel when they don't have electricity in their homes and it's going to Bitcoin? I don't know. Swedish healthcare firm H100 Group buys 5 Bitcoin, making it the first Swedish-based publicly listed Bitcoin treasury company, meaning they're on the stock market in Sweden, and they bought Bitcoin to put in their company as the first one. When there's a first, there's a second, and then there's a 10th, and then there's a 100th. It's going like this in the math. And JP Morgan Chase and Company says major U.S. banks, JP Morgan, Chase, Bank of America, Citigroup, Wells Fargo, are going to issue a joint crypto stablecoin. That's going to be one amongst all their assets. Got to be trillion in assets there, easy. So they'll have $1 trillion to pledge as loans to issue $1 trillion worth of their own $1 stablecoins. So if you have a bundled mortgage at any of these, they're going to bundle your mortgage in and go, well, David's house is worth, and the land or whatever, how much is that worth? And they'll say, it's worth X amount. I can take 50% on the loan for that. So they're going to wrap my house in a smart contract, and then somebody else will own that smart contract and then go, hey, I want to get a loan of 50% against David's house. Well, wait, man, it's my house. How can you wrap a contract on somebody, on not my house? I didn't approve of that. You're gonna bundle my mortgage is worth this much. Yeah, well, I've been paying into it. What do you expect? And then you're gonna loan off that for somebody who holds that. Come on, man, where's my share of that? You can't just go bundling everything that is an entire bank and then just start making loans off of it without anybody being cut in the middle. Like, come on, this is, it's getting kind of over. Oh, and then there's this new book called The Great Harvest by Adam Livingston. You got to watch this thing. Blow it away. Okay, Dubai hits 400 million in tokenized real estate in May. 17.4% of all deals now in Dubai are done on the blockchain. Tokenized real estate. Just like New Jersey tokenized and all the billions of dollars of its real estate, well, 400 million of tokenized real estate exists now in Dubai. So it's happening in 2 different continents in unison. And yeah, it just continues. The all-time record high inflows into crypto investment funds, $167 billion. Yeah, that's a lot. So let's see. Daily transactions is up 275%. And that's with Avalanche. So that's all that blockchain activity to tokenize everything. Oh, let me see. NOAA, let's see. ETFs. Okay. Just a couple more here. Funding for the purchase of Bitcoin is going to come from a revaluing of gold for the Treasury's balance sheet. It's in the big bill. It's literally in there. You can read it at this link there. It's sproutmoney.com/blog/revalue. Senator Loomis says Trump backs Bitcoin Act bill to buy 1 million Bitcoin hits floor this week. Bitcoin 2025. So if we come and get a million Bitcoin, and I'm kind of done there, but if we get 1 million Bitcoin inside the US, that is absolutely going to make the price, it goes so far beyond, and the wildest predictions. If the US comes out alone and says, by the way, we want to get 1 million Bitcoin, we have 200,000 from transactions from criminals that we've swooped their wallets or whatever tax. I'm not sure, but there's 200,000 of those in the American Bitcoin treasury. We need 800,000 more. And I would encourage you to take a look at the research PDF that I did. The Great Bitcoin Grab. There's only 2.4 million Bitcoin out on the exchanges, down from 2.9 million about 3 weeks ago, to say 2.5 million. If the US takes 800,000 of those, I mean, the word on the street will be that is solid value, and everybody will start buying anything and everything. All governments would buy it just because America bought it. And then we get down to this, is it possible where there will be nothing available unless these absurd prices off the market? Somebody just has like side contracts that says, I know it's overpriced, but I'll give you $1 million for it. Even though it's only worth this price, I'll give you 50% more than it's worth just to get my hands on it. And there'll be like these private side contracts you can fulfill or not. but they're going to have to deal with the chaos all this is going to cause too. It's great to look at it and see where it's moving and if you're positioned correctly. And if you know, even buying something today, just hold on to it and get loans against it. Don't sell it. All right. Kind of prepared for that in my mind to see something like, but if you had never heard of this before and it just like that's your new reality, one day you wake up and everything from the previous monetary system is totally gone. And you wake up into this nightmarish reality of what, Ransom's been talking about, all this AI stuff through the night. And then we got all this new crypto world that nobody will know what the hell they're doing. They don't even want to deal with their, seed phrases, passcodes, whatever, like, JSON file, what's that? It's going to be nightmarish for these people. Nightmarish. Like this crypto is going so fast. It is so lightning years ahead of where we're at the cusp of digitizing all the world's wealth and starting over right now. If it goes forward the way they anticipate it to, they want to have every single bit of every value of everything that can have a value to it on the blockchain, on the planet, all in circulation. So like my bookshelf, I'm several $100s worth of books. Okay, somebody will bundle that into a $500 package. Could I get a loan against those books because they're digitized on the blockchain, and then I could take out a loan against the books that I have? It's kind of like that, where everything has a value. You can almost take a loan out against it. But now the banks and corporations could say David has $500 worth of books worth on his bookshelf, and then package that into its own thing and say those are David's books, but they're our books because we own the mortgage on the house or something like that. You're going to own nothing, and they're going to loan against your books or something. I don't know. It's a strange world. Ransom, I know I'm rambling, but please stop me from rambling. But people who think that this is going to go away, or it's just like something in the future, maybe, like Ransom, you understand that the AI is already here. Well, I'm saying unequivocally, the cryptocurrency ownership of assets and all cash monies is here already. It's not for the future. It's now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like really now. Like, so you're talking
It's
about
like more
cryptos
now
and
than most
blockchains.
nows.
Yeah, so check this out. Artificial intelligence is going to ignite a boom of hard assets, but not just that. If you look at all of the stuff that's tied up with AI management and AI, segregating what's worth, what money's going where, all the whole concept of the business is being. So, number one, you got the automotive cars and the planes, you got the metaverse, everything that you're going to interact with online, all of the computing powers that are out there that are involved with generating stuff, including cryptocurrency, platforms and stuff. And then let's go down here. How much is blockchain and stuff tied up with all the metals, right? Because they're talking about, it's not just water and electricity. They're going to need all of this copper and aluminum and tin and steel and silver and all of these other precious metals that, by the way, are being collected up around the world right now. And it's hard to pay attention to each little thing, but all these robotics, cars, appliances, workers, etc., are all going to drive the demand for all of the stuff classically used to build, a decent lifestyle for those people that live in industrialized countries. But it goes on. Uranium. I mean, think about this. They're going to be using uranium in the near future to power these AIs. That's right. And you just keep going on. All of the different avenues of companies and businesses out there are all revolved around this AI segregation and control of everything, which obviously would include the Bitcoin and the blockchain. So then you get over to this idea, like you were talking about before. How long is it until you get kicked out of your house? Because basically what you're doing is a timeshare, and you've digitized your worth in your house into a certain number, but that means somebody else owns a certain number of your property as well. Do you get kicked out of that, or do you have to pay them dividends or rent because they own part of your land and they're not making money off of it? Here's an article: locked out of the American dream, regulations making homes unaffordable around the world. But that's okay because the governments, corporations, real estate companies, big, multi-international conglomerates that own stuff are going to buy up all that property, and they have been doing that. So you got the Black Rocks, et cetera, et cetera. They're buying up all the private property that they could possibly do. So in the near future, without cryptocurrency or being involved in that system, you're not even going to be able to purchase a place to exist, i.e., rent for a time. I saw this video the other day in Japan where they were walking up and using their phone. They were using percentages of their Bitcoin portfolio to pay for the hotel and the whole bill, on my tab. It was all put on that. And then the company would just deduct that, and then their Bitcoin wallet went up. So that's exactly how it's going to go. And then here's a quick example of how fast billions of dollars transfer. Oil prices lower. This is earlier today. Oil prices lower after Trump suggests Israel attack on Iran is not imminent. And then, a couple hours later, you got
Yeah,
oil
I don't know how
prices
they
surge
didn't know. Yeah, then
11%.
it went up that much.
11% on heels of Israeli strikes. And I think I was keeping track of it over here. It's starting to go back up again. The price of it. So you have that all in the mix. Now think about this nightmare scenario. You're driving in Florida. The prices of gas just went up because of events around the world, supposedly, and it's not pre-planned, pre-packaged, and pre-programmed into your psyche to accept. And this is just how it's rolling out. Sheriff warns protesters, "We will kill you," and notify your family where to collect your remains. And then you got Ron DeSantis saying Floridians have the right to hit protesters with their cars. So say you're coming home from a night out of spending your Bitcoin at the club. No, I'm just kidding. Say you're coming home with your family and you only have a little bit of energy in your electric car. Your electric car will not hit those people in the road, so you have to take over and decide to be the pilot of said car, or it's a regular gasoline powered car. And because of some incident overseas, you didn't fill up your tank as much as you usually do, so you're riding on fumes. And then some protest about stuff that doesn't even really matter to the people that are burning stuff in the street, then you have to choose to run them over. So the whole system is being set to become an inhumane, technologically run technocratic system. And this goes down to just human behavior. No, I'm not. I'm on the side of the driver. I have a family. If you catch me and my family and you try to kidnap me, which is what it is, I have the right to free travel. It's right there in the Constitution. I have the right to pursue happiness, and happiness is not being kidnapped by a bunch of angry people throwing crap at my car or trying to light stuff on fire near me that causes me to, be in danger. So I'm going to drive over you. My children come first. I come first. I come second, whatever. But if you put me in a position where it's really hot and my car's overheating and I barely have a little bit of fumes of gas because it's, $6 a gallon again, because some ancient blood feud in the Middle East decided to go live, even though we all knew it was going to. And by the way, these are the headlines I'm really waiting on. So I know nothing's really going to happen major in the world until you see the Dome on the Rock get destroyed or damaged, and Israel take back over that little piece of real estate on top of Solomon's temple, and then start building a new construction. That's all they have to do. It could be a shawarma sandwich thing. It doesn't matter what it is. Any new construction on there will be viewed as the religious zealots around the world as a new Solomon's temple being built. But isn't the new Solomon's temple actually the Iron Dome that they're moving around right now in anticipation of, retaliatory attacks? So this is going to spread over to all of the other nations because, despite popular belief, a lot of nations around the world are still entangled into the religions. That includes Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. And all of those people will be easily radicalized if they feel like their religion is being directly attacked, which will inevitably happen if we allow these lunatics to continue on trying to push for World War III. Because all of it's tangled in religion. Just look over at the Russia-Ukrainian thing. You have Ukrainian type of Christianity and you have the Russian type of Christianity. And one group said the other group can't be there and vice versa. You see that same thing set up everywhere. You could go to the UK. You got things playing on a loudspeaker in public, and then you got the locals being told that their church can't ring the bells and because it's distracting, it's noise pollution. The yuppies don't like it, the Muslims don't like it, and the nature and the wildlife doesn't like it. So they're going to start putting limitations on those religions to agitate them, and meanwhile the AI religion is taking over in the background. So while you guys play out your social debates and battle of ideas on the streets, they're building a transhuman worldwide web of internet and information and money. And there will come a time where you're either part of the new system and a citizen of the new world, or you're part of that old problematic, opinionated, religious. You might even throw in the Constitution, they might say, is a religion, because that's the first document in human history that says we ourselves independently are important and endowed with rights given to us by a creator. Didn't say which one, but your creator says you're born with it. And that's not compatible with an AI technocracy, because the AI will decide what you're allowed to do, when you're allowed to get food, what kind of rationings you'll be on, when and where you'll be able to spend your digital money. If you're going to go on vacation or not go on vacation, they'll even tell you what areas of the world you're allowed to go to because of whatever transformation is happening in that area at the current time.
You're only allowed to go to Africa.
Well, they take Bitcoin now, so
They do. They take stable coins as well.
matter of fact, recently a African American lady went over there with a bunch of banking, power, and she had some digital currency. And it wasn't long before she realized she wanted to come back. Even though she did say that business was quite easy, it was easy to, buy things and buy food and different stuff. What she didn't like is the other million people that wanted some of it. So, like, you can't travel nowhere without being stopped and taxed, even at the store. So, can you imagine a world where you're the only guy that can do things digitally, and there's 15, I don't know, fentanyl addicts on the street right there that are no longer part of the digital system, but they also want a little bit of something too. And then you got to go talk to the robot and hope the robot police are around to help you. No. So everybody's going to lock themselves in and take drone delivery.
Wow, man. I'm just baffled in this day and age that this stuff's still allowed to continue. Like this whole ridiculousness now with, oh, we need to go bomb here again in another country. Like, come on. It's so ridiculous. We're so interconnected. How can these things still be allowed to go on? This is not people wanting to fight people. This is just war machine wanting to generate higher profits.
Right.
There's no reason for any of this. I can't believe in today's age, it baffles me that we're still here. I just, I'm really shocked that it continues. Like, how is this even allowed to continue?
I don't know.
It's just insanity, man. Insanity. But everybody's looking on going, shit, I can't believe they would do or did that. They're like, what's going on? Those guys are insane. Yeah, you're insane. Like, why is this even allowed to continue that we continue bombing people? We're back into the Stone Age again. Keep putting us in this circle again. It's got to be a way to break out of this.
There is. They just reduced the population to about 500 million.
Us.
Inequality with nature, man. They already told us the plan. They even destroyed it right about the time that, it would come into effect. And then, if we could go with the dork in me, and they got all of these other topics. We talk about geopolitical stuff and the AI. But what about stuff like this? Just our way of life, poisoning the hummingbirds, killing the bees because of trends. And then you got stuff like this, all us people that stay up all night and look at the internet and look at what's going on. You're getting dementia probably and going blind because of blue light and having your brain rewired where it can't think without the external hard drive of your computer, phone, or tablet. And this is another point. Me and you feel like we can still fight it because we came from it. We were born in a generation that did not have the algorithm. I'm just going to call it that. I know there's a bunch of different ones and you could split hairs about it, but overall there's a algorithm affecting humanity at this point. Now I'm looking at my kids. They're kind of rejecting reading in the traditional way that you teach a kid to read. However, they are learning how to read on their own, by themselves, with the assistance of artificial intelligence. Now, my 4-year-old has discovered that it can ask the AI to find it things or ideas on the internet. So we've had to totally lock her down, basically. But even on the stuff she's allowed to, she's realized, I don't have to know how to spell it or nothing. I just say cat videos. Boom, millions of cat videos show up. So she shows the 2-year-old, here, all you got to do is push this button and tell it what you want. The 2-year-old catches on seconds. Cat videos, dog videos. I want to see, somebody parachute. It doesn't matter. So you've got them already. They don't know anything else. They know there's an algorithm already that's going to provide them with nurturing, provide them with information and data and direction and religion and facts and history. So they don't even need the generation before us. And they're at a small age. Of course, they need you to prepare their meals and wipe their butts still. But there's going to come a time when they no longer need us for that either. And that time is already shown to us in the form of eco life factories. It's not really as far-fetched as people think, because now there's already a generation completely wired to it. Now, my son, who's going to be 20, he wasn't born with instant access to the algorithms. Instead, he played games and watched TV and watched cartoons that talked about the algorithm and what it could do and, in the future, blah, blah, blah. And then 10 years later, boom, it's real. And now the kids that are born now, they will know nothing else unless you literally keep them from it and raise them on a farm and make them feed the animals, I don't know, and learn some skills that actually matter. Other than that, if they're in the regular system, it's the technocratic system of transhumanism. And it's even affecting children that are not directly plugged in, because they see it via everything. I mean, even the kid thinks that my little kids literally think that that's a robot at the gas station. There's a robot that gives us money. There's a robot that we pay for food at the store. There's a robot that drives people around in cars. When I went to Houston, everywhere was self-driving cars. Everybody had a Tesla. And I mean, lots of them. It was way more than I thought. So there's nobody burning those Teslas there. There's a lot of people that like them. I even saw versions of the Toyota one and some other European brands of self-driving cars. And I'm wondering, when I see 15 robots next to me on the interstate, and there's a car down about 2 miles burning up, and you got all kinds of emergency vehicles and people driving 30 miles over the speed limit in their old beat up truck. How is that going to mix with an AI deciding for half of those people what they're about to do and where they're going and all of that? And we found out the hard way that our GPS decided not even to tell us when it changed directions on us. We wanted to go to a specific place and take a specific route, and we picked that, and then without telling us, it changed that route, making me go to a city I didn't want to go to. Like, I didn't even notice. It just happened because it never said anything about rerouting or nothing. It just changed it due to the new artificial intelligence input of the current road conditions. So it just changed it. So imagine if you're trying to escape the city back to your, country right out there, and your damn GPS it won't cooperate with you. You better know the way to get there. Mental map.
Yeah, or the GPS was overtaken by AI to funnel people to those cattle shoot zones.
Right.
Yikes, man. Sounds like Mad Max to me. It sounds like Mad Max. But everybody, thank you for joining us tonight. Civilization Cycle podcast. Please remember, put your name in the browser and in the bar to fill up. It's the end of the night. Put your name in. We'll get you the show notes next week. Anyway, I appreciate you for listening in. Ransom, sign us off. Newsletter right there. QR code, civilizationcycle.com.
That's right. Don't forget to use your AI to scan that little barcode there. And you can also do this and scan this barcode if you want to help us out. And if you're a Revolution Radio listener, we'll be re-airing this show at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Studio A, if everything goes right. I mean, they've been having a lot of problems, but we've been trying to play the shows on there. So for some people, if you want to re-listen to it over the radio or whatever, we'll be there at that time. Peace out.